Hello and welcome to week 5 of our seminar class. So I hope you guys enjoyed writing that personal statement essay, and I really do hope it comes in handy when you start to apply for colleges. I'm going to take a break from the college application process for now. I did reach out to your guys' guidance counselor, Ryan, to ask her for additional resources, and I wanted to ask you all if that's something you're interested in. If you're interested in having Ryan come to speak to you or looking at the college application process, but it's something we'll definitely revisit in the spring. I wanted to move on to the next topic in this class, actually, though, and look at lesson planning. So I did speak with our superintendent yesterday, and we're still not entirely sure what our schedule is going to look like for these second 9 weeks. So if we stay in this hybrid, I'm going to have to readjust kind of how I do things, but I do want to get you guys started on writing lesson plans. Now, in the preschool, you write lesson plans and you actually implement them with your preschoolers, and I'm not sure how Ms. D is doing that this year, but in this seminar class, as I've mentioned before, you're going to be able to write a lesson plan over any topic and any subject that you are interested in. Now, what you're going to learn really quickly is that all teachers use a different form of a lesson plan. So I will later show you some examples of the lesson plans I've used and how they've kind of changed over my years of teaching, but we're all going to use the same format in this seminar class when we get started. And it's going to be slightly different than the format that Ms. D uses. So if you look at the top, it's pretty self-explanatory. You're going to put your name, what subject you want to teach, what grade level you want to teach, and then the standard and objective is what we're going to look at today. So a big part of being a teacher is being able to identify what students need to know and what they need to be able to do. And again, you're going to do a lot of this with your preschoolers. So I found that students and teachers get really excited about the different types of activities that we get to do in the classroom. But we always have to keep the end game in mind. What are we trying to make sure our students know? What do we want them to understand? And what do we want them to be able to do? As you'll learn later this year in your government class, education is actually up to the state. So the state decides what the standards are for each grade level. They decide what students need to be able to do by the end of the school year. Let's take a look at the website, ohio.gov, the Department of Education. And so if you go to this website, which I will link for you, you're going to be able to take a look at what the state has come up with for our model curriculum and our learning standard and what assessments that our students need. And it also gives tools or resources to help students and educators. This is the section of the website that you're going to be revisiting multiple times over the next few weeks. So you have English language arts, there's social studies. I know some of you mentioned you were interested in maybe being a math teacher. There's also a early learning section. You'll be using that with the preschool and Miss D. So feel free to click around and try to figure it out on your own. But I still struggle kind of trying to find my resources. So I'm absolutely going to make sure I meet with you to help you narrow down which subject you want to teach. So let's take a look at this lesson plan template. Again, this week you're only going to be looking at the standard and objective, but I do want to give you an idea of what these are going to look like. By the end of this process, this is going to be a few weeks process, you are going to teach a lesson. I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work. I don't know if you're going to have to record yourselves or if we might be able to use the academic support time, but think of a lesson that you want to teach to your peers. And your peers are going to pretend to be high schoolers or middle schoolers or preschoolers. Okay, the first section is going to be the hook. And the purpose of this is introducing yourselves or introducing the day or introducing the topic. You're trying to provide an engaging hook. So you're trying to get your students kind of engaged. You're trying to get them ready and excited about learning something. You obviously don't want them falling asleep in the first few minutes of class. So a hook could be something as simple as playing a song when they walk in, or something as simple as asking them a question. It can be a game. It can be a video clip. It's something to get students excited and ready to learn and ready to focus on what you need them to focus. So one of the most fun parts of being a teacher is coming up with these activities and these games and these review sessions and creating things. But we have to teach lessons. And so there is that portion of the class that does have to be dedicated towards teaching our students something. So on the lesson plan, we're going to call it the mini lesson. Studies have been done that show that we can only pay attention for as many years we are old. So for instance, you all are 15, 16, and one of you just turned 17. With the studies, that would say that you could only pay attention for 15 minutes at a time before you're just off in la la land. And so that also applies to our younger students. And if you think about it, my 3-year-old probably gets pretty distracted after 3 minutes. So you're going to come up with a short lesson in which you're teaching. And remember, you're putting what your students are doing and what you're doing during that time. Next, we have guided practice. And a lot of time in this section, the teacher doesn't have as active of a role. So if I teach you how to solve a math problem, for instance, that's my content mini lesson. And then the guided practice might be, okay, everybody try number 3. Or turn to your partner and tell your partner how we did number 3. And so this is also something that's imperative to have in your lesson, is a form of guided practice, a way for the students to practice what they were just taught. All right, so under the guided practice, you will reconvene it as a group. So everyone's done number 3 or talk to their partner about number 3. And then you as a teacher are able to gauge, do we get it? Can we move on? Or do I still need to do a little bit more teaching? After you've done that, you'll get to the next part of the class, which is the independent practice. Now, this may be in a form of an exit ticket. It might be one short question. It might be an assignment. It's something that you're going to be able to, as a teacher, look back on later that day and say, all right, my students got it. Or, oh man, I need to redo this again. Like the hook, another really important part of the lesson is your closer. So it is great if students have been able to pay attention and do their work the whole period, but how are they leaving your classroom? What are they leaving your classroom remembering? And so in the closer, you're going to find a way to make sure the students realize, hey, I learned something today. And what they're going to take home. When their parents say, what did you do in school today? What are they taking home? So how can you end your class in a way that's memorable? And this is challenging. All of these aspects of lesson plans are challenging. And we still, as teachers who have been doing this for 5 or 10 or 15 or even 20 years, are constantly changing our methods to try to appeal to our changing students. I recognize that this was a lot of information and a really brief overview, but we are going to spend a lot of weeks looking at this. And by the end of the year, you're going to have written multiple lesson plans. And so you will, it will start to click. And so if you're feeling overwhelmed or confused right now, don't. Please know that we're just getting started. And again, this week, all I'm actually looking for you to do is what grade level, what subject, and then we're going to go start digging into the standards. Once you've picked a grade level, subject, and standard, I'm going to have you start working on a learning objective, but I don't intend on you having that finished by the end of this week. I have a short puzzle video that goes over how to write a learning objective, but we're going to spend some time looking at Bloom's taxonomy and looking at how we can make a successful learning objective.